everybody. My name is Ken Clark. I'm the editor of Hardware and Building Supply Dealer magazine and also HBSDealer.com. And this is our one-on-one video series. And with us today is Grant Farnsworth. Very happy to have Grant with us. Grant is the president of the Farnsworth Group. Great research. They provide a lot of great research for the industry. They have a lot of great award-winning clients out there in the hardware and building supply space. And we're very happy to have Grant. Say hello to the audience, please.
Hello, audience. Hello, Ken. Always good to be with you and chat about our industry that we love so much. So thanks for having us.
We saw you from a distance at the International Builder Show recently. We were just talking about that. We think there were 68,000 people there ready to do business. Do you have any takeaways from what happened in Orlando?
Good energy, good attendance. I think it felt really full because it was maybe a little bit more compact than it normally is. But Ken, I was pleasantly surprised with the level of people that were there, the types of discussions we were having. And again, I think it's just always a really good opportunity for folks like you and I to get a pulse. What are the contractors? Is there optimism around? Is there a good energy and vibe? And I mean, we felt it. So it was pretty cool.
There was a lot of discussions about labor-saving products that we engaged in during the various booth visits.
Yep.
And which brings us right to an email we just got a few minutes ago from the Farnsworth Group regarding the monthly home improvement tracker.
Yep.
Showing something really interesting. The 70% of your survey respondents reported at least some material shortages. And that data comes just after we saw the New York Times article today about the shortage of garage doors. The mainstream media has found out finally that there is a shortage in the supply chain for the home improvement industry.
And they've decided to latch on to garage doors of all things. So.
But one of the slides that you sent involves the main reasons for project delays or stoppage. Material availability is really kind of jumping ahead as the number one reason. Can you give any more little analysis on that?
Yeah, sure. So each month, we're publicly providing the industry some information, both from the homeowner side as well as the contractor side, on project activity, almost sentiment around what's happening each month in their business amongst residential contractors. In the last couple of months, we've actually seen more residential pros say they've had some stoppage or delays in projects than over the last 5 or prior 6 months. And what is driving that really is around availability of product. Certainly pricing is becoming more and more important as well when we look at the challenges of their organization. And so we've been tracking that on a monthly basis. And again, Ken, I think it's really interesting. The last couple of months, it started to creep up a little bit and become more significant. Those delays in availability are now becoming more 2, 4, 5-week delays as opposed to 1 and 2 week delays, which is what we saw end of last year. So it's really putting a strain on the contractors to keep up with all of the business requests that they have. I think it's putting frustrations on the homeowners for delaying their projects. We're seeing it on the DIY side as well, even when we look at DIYers experiencing more project delays. And it keeps coming back to this availability piece. Like I said, we're seeing a spike now in pricing. So I think the big question for our industry and a lot of conversations we're having with our clients, quite frankly, is what's next. And I think a lot of manufacturers, a lot of suppliers are starting to think about the next 1 to 2 years as we look at inflation, some of those pricing metrics starting to creep up with availability. How do we combat that? What's going to be the product mix that we need to have? You mentioned at the Builder Show, a lot of product development to combat the labor piece. I think there's going to be some product development, not just to combat labor, but to combat some high price points that we're starting to see as well. So there's a number of different challenges that contractors are facing, and they don't seem to be going away anytime soon, Ken.
Yeah, I hear you use the metric of years. You're measuring the kind of a solution run window as years instead of months. That's not going to be good news to a lot of our viewers, I'm afraid.
I think we've hopefully learned our lesson for the last 2 years. We keep saying, oh, next month. I think this is for the next 2 years going to be an issue. We talk with a lot of folks on the supply chain issue, and the consensus that we've had is it's certainly going to be through 2020, but it's probably going to be an 18-month, even 24-month pain in many categories. So companies are now starting to plan, assuming that's the case, because it hasn't gone away yet. How do we build out our product development pipeline? How do we think about our supply chain? How do we think about our pricing structure? What do we look at for SKUs to make sure that we're still in entry-level price points if inflation is going to continue for the next 12 months? So I think, yeah, Ken, I think there is more long-range planning starting to happen because we've been in this almost day-to-day mode for the last 18, 24 months of putting out fires.
Mm-hmm.
Back to planning. I think manufacturers and suppliers really have to get back to planning and thinking about what is going to be coming down the pike for the next couple of years.
One of the other interesting stats from the tracker that, again, just came out today that I thought was kind of surprising was the high percentage of contractors who still report that COVID is a concern of homeowners as far as going in and doing. I mean, like you said, it's been a couple of years, and the mask rules are beginning to be relaxed in various jurisdictions, states and jurisdictions. Was that a surprise to you that that number was so high?
It is and it isn't, right? So I think when we look at the data from, November, December, January, this is really when, Omicron was getting a lot of attention, was getting a lot of new cases. So I think there was some sentiment, just as we see with confidence levels, either on the consumer side or pro side, that were impacting some of those decisions and some of those delays. Ken, we'd fully expect now that cases are coming down and mandates are coming off, that the concerns around COVID from a homeowner perspective are therefore going to be going down. And so it's going to be impacting contractors less. That said, it's not gone. I don't think it's ever going to go away. It's definitely left an imprint in homeowners' minds. So as a contractor, what are the systems that you have in place to reassure that you're thinking of the homeowner's health, that you're taking their home into consideration when coming inside? They may not want that all the time, but there may be some of those pieces of comfort that they're still looking for or expecting when you show up at their home.
Your home improvement tracker tracks both contractor side, as you mentioned, also the DIY and do it for me side. Is there any kind of quick and memorable way you can kind of describe the differences between what you're seeing in the data?
Yeah, so differences, fewer delays on the DIY side. So when we look at DIY, we also track DIFM. Fewer delayed projects when we think about those that are doing the projects themselves. What I think is really, really interesting on the DIY side is the reasons that they are not hiring a contractor. One, they can't get a hold of them, so the responsiveness or the poor timing of the contractor. And two is price. So DIYers saying, I can do this a lot cheaper if I do it myself. So again, this price discussion, I think, is going to become much more important than it's been for the last couple of years as we think ahead over the next 12, 18 months. On the DIFM side, we're seeing still some availability issues with DIFM that, they're realizing that my projects that the contractor's doing is being delayed because of availability. They're spending more than they had anticipated. So how that impacts decision on product and brand being used, we have yet to see, but I think that's coming, Ken. I mean, we really do. We just look at this pricing discussion. At some point, things are going to be on the shelves, right? Availability is going to be resolved to a certain degree at some point. And then I think the conversation is going to shift more towards, okay, prices are getting pretty high. I still want to do the project. I still have a lot of equity to spend, but I'm not willing to pay a boatload anymore. What else can I get?
Grant, we like to end our interviews on a positive note. We saw a forecast on single-family housing starts at the International Builders Show. Pretty flat or up 1%.
Yep.
But home improvement demand, can you give us some positive forecast for sales for our audience?
Well, look, we're not economists, but we can certainly repeat what we hear in all the conversations we're having. I think that expectation of flat is probably realistic. That doesn't mean the demand isn't there. We look at fundamentals of the industry, population growth, et cetera. The demand is there, but it's the supply chain constraint, and not just the material side, but the labor side, Ken. We've talked about labor in this industry for how many years now? We're still bullish. We're still optimistic. We're really, really optimistic, Ken, I'd say, on existing home remodels and projects. We're seeing those project sizes increase. We're super, super bullish on homeowners using equity that they've got in their home to do some upgrades because there is no inventory out there. So confident in the new starts, but bullish on remodeling activity for the next couple of years.
Grant, thanks so much for joining us for our one-on-one video series. We really appreciate it. And thanks to you, the audience, for paying attention. And have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.